Okay. All right, I'm Carla with the Squirrel Cage Jail, and I get the honor of doing something that most people only dream about, and so does Ed. We actually get to work in a haunted building, so we can do whatever we want. You guys, come and crawl the building when you want to, but we get to be there 6-7 days a week. The building was built in 1880. Gotta remember which building I'm in. 1885, because I play in 2 different buildings. And the technical drawings are up here. It worked as our county jail until 1969. The men's sections in here are the most phenomenal thing ever, and they rotated as a 3-story cage until 1960. You guys had you guys have these wonderful pie-shaped cells, which if you've ever seen the Shawshank Redemption, you can't escape out of a jail through the toilet, because we have had it happen in that jail twice. Same guy both times. But it's a beautiful building. It was built at the cost of about $30,000, which is somewhere around $4 million today. The majority of that, it's up to you. The majority of that was with the steel cage construction. The steel cage back there, you guys apparently must be very strong because they can withstand an African lion. And that's also where they made their money off of it. The outside of the building, and if you go through there, the warden's apartments and kitchen and everything only totaled $8,000. The other $22,000 came from the steel. So it's an absolutely fascinating building. It does come with rules. You guys come in and, the normal paranormal rules apply to you guys. No running, no horseplay, all that type of stuff. But my building comes with one very special rule when you're walking through the middle of the night.
Don't lick the walls.
Do not lick the walls. We have lead-based paint that we cannot paint over or remove because we lose a lot of our history, and you'll see that as the slideshow goes through. There's writing all over the walls. It's an incredible part. When you get me on the tour, you get to hear that lecture too. But it started out, we had 2 Mr. Carters in there, which Ed and I kind of debated over names for a while because I called him one thing and he called him something else. The first superintendent in the place was J.D.M. Carter, which he's been caught on EVPs and will even call himself by name. There's been full-body apparitions of the gentleman through there. And then we had a jailer later on whose name was H.J. Carter. And so the 2 kind of play around the building, but as far as I know, I think the one that wanders through there still is the original. It was, you're upstairs now where that door had opened up at, which is an absolute fantastic place to be, but this is looking into the 3rd floor cells, which is off limits. There's no way to get into those ones. Limited human interaction is what you guys were supposed to be, and if any of you women out there are married, the idea behind this is that we could put you guys in a cell, give you constant supervision, and limited contact, and you guys would reform yourselves. Okay? Us women already know that we can constantly supervise you guys. It ain't going to change your behavior one bit. Okay? The only thing that would help in this place is solitary confinement, which if you've been in, this is an absolute wonderful, fantastic place, and every home should have one. It is a glorified gym walker all the way down an angled hallway. And the idea behind it is, solitary confinement is a grown-up timeout. And you could be in there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, let you guys settle down from whatever tantrum you decided to throw. We have lots of times where the men have been in there for 5-10 days at a time. It is a small enough place that, well, actually, I didn't realize there was a height limit until somebody pointed it out to me, and you can't be too much taller than me. But it's not very wide, it's not very deep, and they shut a cage door right in front of you. So if you get somebody, your size in there, after a little bit, you're going to lose the feeling in your legs, and they would drag them around and parade them around as an example to everybody else for how to behave. And I said, it's an absolute wonderful thing. I love my job. The men is what the jail focuses around. However, we do have a little girl that roams pretty much all through the building, and she's been caught by several people. She tends to know who is a mom and who is just a woman. And she likes the camera straps, electronic equipment, things like that. She will ask for pins. She'll say, I want that, don't touch me, all sorts of things throughout the building. And it was not uncommon to have children in there. The warden lived up there with his family. Not to mention, for a large part of our history, we did not have child services, so if the parents were serving time, the children served time in juvenile. The parents were in the hospital, the kids came in there. There's lots of reasons to have kids in there, including the little baby that was born in there. And it was home to lots of people. I mean, it was that your family lived in there. It was safe, it was secure, your food was there, your electricity was there. I mean, it was a very comfortable place. We have no records of a child dying, but that doesn't mean, since this is an unknown field, it doesn't mean that that child died as a child. It just could have been a comfortable time in our life, whether that comfort was good or bad. As far as we know, for our record keeping, we have 4 recorded deaths. We have a gentleman who hung himself. We have a gentleman who took a nap during the 1932 farmer strike and rolled off the catwalk. A gentleman who had a heart attack in the back side of the 2nd floor, so the building had shifted and they couldn't rotate him out, so his poor cellmate sat there for about 3 days with him. Yes. And then also during that 1932 farmer strike, we had about, it's an interesting jail. It sleeps 60 men comfortably. Sort of. You gotta lay down on them. They're really cool little beds. 1932 farmer strike, we arrested about 160 men and put them in that jail. So it was just a tad overcrowded. The other farmers were going to storm the jail and break them all out, so they called up a state firearms specialist. He came in to try to show all the deputies how to use the machine guns and the riot guns. Our building is steel and brick. So if you discharge a firearm in the building, it will do some serious collateral damage, and we did lose a deputy during that incident. But there's not a lot, of course, in 1885 all the way up to the early 1920s, it's easier just to say you released the guy than to fill out the paperwork associated with his death. So I'm pretty sure there was probably more than the 4. We housed everybody. We had Jake Berg, which he was an axe murderer, found that, well, they claim he couldn't have done Villisca, even though he killed 44 people, because he was on a train in another part of the country at the time. Francisco Guadis is a really interesting story, another railroad town. We had plenty of them. He was, got fired, threatened his boss, blanket threat that everybody's going to make. The guy that sponsored his trip over here woke him up and said, hey, guess what you did? Here's your bloody knife. And they brought him into the jail. In order to get out, because people were going to lynch him outside, he had to confess to the murder. Of course, there's this beautiful handwritten confession that we have in the jail, signed by him, which is amazing because he didn't speak or read English. But he did a darn good job, let me tell you. That was in 1913, so earlier this year they did pretty much find him innocent. He was framed by a nice little gentleman who woke him up. He admitted to it on his deathbed, so there went 30 years of this guy's life. Our upstairs is the most interesting. You get all sorts of things up there, but we also have archives from going back to the mid-1700s and lots of personal belongings. So it's a little bit wild when you get up there. I believe Angelique's group was there the night that the picture frame flew off and landed over on the table. Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic building. Ed has been in there several times where you can hear somebody clanking on the bars and he can holler at them and they'll shut up. I was in there with a wonderful group, and normally my hat on, and I could feel the 3-finger pinch of the guy trying to pull my hat off, so I'm standing there with a group like this as the whole back of my hat's being ripped off my head. So it's a really fun building. The pictures when it gets through solitary confinement, there's this adorable little blonde boy. That's my great nephew. For as creepy and scary as that building is, that kid does not like to leave. He will